Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show and welcome to my favorites of 2019. So here it is, February. Man, who else has problems saying the name of this month? February 8th, 2020. And here I am recording this episode, which, like I said, is my favorites of 2019. And it's taken me a while to get to this because I had a bunch of trades that I had not read that I had bought in 2019, sort of towards the end of 2019, that I just hadn't gotten to. So I was busy reading those, evaluating them to see if they deserve to be on this list. So here we are now, like I said, a couple months, I guess just over a month into the new year, and I've cataloged and categorized my comics that I read in 2019. And so I guess some stats. I like to do that for my favorites episode. So let's see here. According to my database, I bought 337 comics, which is down by 54 issues from the previous year, which is interesting. And I also bought 33 trades or collections, which is up by 4. So 370, if I did my math correctly, 370 total titles or issues/titles. It's, like I said, interesting, down by 54. I have been ordering fewer comics, I've noticed lately, basically in the last 6 months, I'll say, maybe longer, in part because I wanted to save some money, also in part that there weren't a whole lot of things that were interesting me as much, and I decided that, at least for DC and Marvel, for the most part, I would start buying more trades from them and maybe start picking up more independent books coming out instead. So kind of moving my money around in terms of my purchasing power here. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I definitely have a bunch of trades on I'm looking over at my bookshelves right now, and I've got probably a good 24 books that I have not shelved yet, and I'm basically out of room. So I don't know what I'm going to do with these. We shall see as the year goes on. So of those 370 comics that I bought in 2019, 183 of those were DC comics, which is down by 36 from the previous year. 74 were Marvel, down by 2. So interesting. DC lost more of my business than Marvel did. I got 47 Image comics. That's up by 8. And the remainder, 66, were all the other publishers. And of those 66, 3 were single purchases from a publisher. So that's interesting, at least to me. And overall, of those 66, down by 20. So I bought 20 fewer issues from all the various publishers. So let's see, down, up, down, down, up, down. So I guess in aggregate, my comic purchasing is down, which I think I already indicated before I got into the details here. All right, well, I guess I should just get into this. In case you are unfamiliar, if you're new to the show, welcome. Or in case you've forgotten since the last time you've listened to one of my favorites of the year episodes, I just go through. This is not a best of. I stopped doing that years ago. But what I do is I go through each publisher who provided some comics that I really enjoyed, and I got a long list here. So DC, Marvel, Image, other publishers. I got a bunch of things to talk about, and I hope that you enjoy the episode, and I'll just get right into it. We'll start with DC Comics. So earlier in 2019, Pete Tomasi came on to write some issues in Detective Comics towards the end of the 900s, before we got to Detective Comics 1000, that milestone issue. And so there was a run of stories. Let's see. It started with issue 994, which came out in 2018. I just wanted to mention that, but starting with issue 995 through issue 999. This was all done by Tomasi, Monkey, Mendoza, Barron, Irwin, Alamy, Champagne, and Lee. And I'm just going to give, for the most part, I'm just going to give last names of the creators involved in these particular books, because there's a lot of people I'm going to be mentioning. And I want to apologize for mispronouncing any names ahead of time. All right. So that particular story in Detective Comics, I really enjoyed. I remember tweeting about this, saying that with this story and the Tom King written Batman, which hint I'll be talking about here, I thought that this was a new golden age of Batman comics. And so, and I know that not everybody agreed with that. I heard from some friends who are not as enamored with this run on Detective Comics, but I really enjoyed it. I thought that there was lots of wow moments. Oh yeah. And spoilers, if you haven't read these titles, these stories, these issues, I will mention some things that may be spoilery. Which is this moment. We saw Leslie Tompkins killed in this story, which was the first wow moment of this. If I remember correctly, she fell victim to some Joker venom. We also saw Alfred killed. However, and maybe this is why people didn't like this run of Detective Comics, but turns out that this was not real. This was a test of Bruce Wayne's own design, a test of his limits, and it was basically a dream sequence. What is that? That's a 6-issue dream sequence, basically. But I thought it was just bonkers. So I really enjoyed it. It did, interestingly enough, because this was going on around the same time, I believe, as the storyline in Batman. Basically, it's the same plot device, essentially a nightmare to break Batman. So that they were both going on. So, or maybe maybe the Detective Comics run slightly preceded it. I think maybe that's true. Anyway, it did seem to foreshadow some themes or events that did happen in the Batman title. And I don't know if that was intentional or not. It'd be interesting to find that out. Did Tomasi and Monkey and the other creators, did they develop this independently of what Tom King and the other folks were doing in Batman, or did they kind of coincide or collaborate in some ways to produce similar stories? Two sides of the same coin type situation, perhaps. But regardless, I quite enjoyed it. And since I'm talking about Batman, well, I got two more things for Batman. So Batman by King, Gerrards, Hanin, Belair, Fornes, Stewart, Kinzierski, Connor, Mounts, Paquette, Fairbairn, Daniel Morey, Flory, Mann, Romita Jr., Jansen, and Coles. There's a lot of creators on this because this is the run of Batman comics, issues 62 through 85. Yes, I said that correctly. Pretty much everything I read of Batman in 2019, I adored. Love that title. Some highlights of this, we had, Nightmares, spelled with the K, The Dark Knight. Part one of that was in 2018, but then we got the rest of it in 2019. The Fall and the Fallen this is the storyline where Batman is broken and defeated by Bane and his other enemies. And then the finale, the City of Bane storyline, and this is where Catwoman returns, nurses Batman back to health, and we got that great issue of Batman and Catwoman in Hawaii, I believe, and with Bruce looking more than a little like Thomas Magnum, which I really thought was cool. Anyway, she helped nurse him back to health, and then they, of course, defeat Bane and the Flashpoint Batman, his father from another universe, Thomas Wayne. Now, while like I said, I love this run of Batman ever since issue 1. I will say, though, the fact that Alfred is dead, not my favorite aspect of the story. In fact, it is probably the only drawback to it. But from a storytelling perspective, you got to have some gut punch. And with Batman, basically the theme of King's Batman story is that Batman never gives up. And, that's not new. We've seen that before. So really, this is just a stylistic examination of that trope for Batman, which is fine. Like I said, I love it. I loved it. But with that familiarity, you gotta do something a little different. And boy, did they do something a little different in killing off Alfred. Now, obviously, Alfred has been dead before, but I don't know what this means. Will Alfred come back? Yes, Alfred will come back. But how will he come back? What does that mean for Batman in the meantime? Those are the things I'm looking forward to. Unfortunately, I decided not to continue with the series after Tom King stepped away from it. But of course, I will be coming back for the Batman and Catwoman. I think it's a 12-issue story where he's going to wrap up what he wanted to do with the Batman title. For whatever reason, DC decided that they would not give him 100 issues as he had been talking about, and he has to finish it elsewhere, which is fine. All right, here is... this might go under a favorite single issue story, I guess. This is in Batman Annual number 4 by King, Fornes, Norton, Stewart, and Coles. The story is entitled Every Day. I love this. This was awesome. This is basically Alfred is chronicling what Batman goes through every day. There's a bunch of cases throughout the story. Each case until the end starts off with a splash page. I thought that was interesting the way they did that. But then for the last section, as we get to the very last part of the story, the number of page panels mirror the number of days described from 1 to 9, which I thought was, maybe a little too cute, a little too meta, but, I thought it was kind of neat. But again, it again mirrors what Tom King has been doing in the Batman title proper, which is, Batman goes out there every day, every night, and helps people in peril and takes down the bad guys. I particularly loved Jorge Fornes's art. His Batman, it reminds me a lot of David Mazzucchelli's work, which probably a little too much so, but I dig it. I thought in this particular annual that Dave Stewart's colors were perfect, pitch perfect for what Fornes was doing in that story. So if you haven't read Batman Annual number 4, I highly recommend it. Next up is Hawkman. I talked about Hawkman in my favorites of 2018. In 2019, issues 8 through 13 came out, and more than that, I think. But I'm spotlighting 8 through 13 because that is those are the issues that were done by Venditti Hitch, doing the art. Curry, Skipper, Ratmond, Conrad, and Starkings all finishing out, the creators on that run. This was the last part of that first major story arc, which is real quick. Carter was a world-killing bastard that renounced his murderous ways and wants to redeem himself. He was part of this group called the Doombringers. I hope I have that right. Or the Doombringers were the big robot things. I don't remember. Anyway, the Doombringers arrive to complicate matters at the end of that. I think that's issues 11 and 12, or maybe just 12. I don't remember now. But with issue 13 being kind of a coda, a prequel of sorts, with Conrad doing the art in that. I think it's Will Conrad. I wasn't all that excited about Conrad doing the art because I had seen Conrad do some Wonder Woman stuff, I think, and I didn't particularly care for it, but I really did enjoy it in issue 13. So I was looking forward to him continuing on art for the series, but he didn't stick around that long. Anyway, they got somebody else on there. Didn't like that as much, especially compared to what Brian Hitch was doing. I hope that Brian Hitch comes back sometime. All right, finally for DC, this is a late entry in the list because this was one of the books that I had to read to catch up. Stuff that I got at the end of the year that I had to read at the beginning of 2020 to determine if it belongs on the list, and this one certainly does. This is Pearl. Both volumes 1 and 2, trades by Bendis, Gaydos, and Reed. This is from Brian Michael Bendis' Jinx World line. Basically, the gist of it: a tattoo artist gets involved with a Yakuza clan war and ends up becoming an assassin. Sort of. That part doesn't. I don't really care about that. I mean, it's interesting enough, but what I love about this book, love about both volumes, is the art, the Gaydos and Reed art. Wow, it's so gorgeous. I'm going to oversimplify this. It's mostly inks on the page with washes of color. There's not a lot of. Is this the right way to put it? Depth of the images, but I don't know. It's just something about the composition of Pearl that just is, like I said, it's just gorgeous. And different styles too. Sometimes the line work is so crisp and clean, and other times it's just the colors just overtake the scene. There's a club scene where you get all the lights flashing and stuff, and it's just that's all you see. There's no nuance of color. There's no independence of color. It's just washed out by all these lights, and I thought that was just really cool. And then there's I think in volume 1 there's a story that is a parallel story of or am I thinking of the other book? I think I'm maybe thinking of Cover. I think I am. The other Bendis book that's not on this list, although I did enjoy it. Anyway, it's just I found this book. It's delightful to read. I thought it was effective and evocative and playful with the art. So, boy, if you haven't read this, there's a lot of typical Bendisisms. So, if you can't get past that, I would really recommend you try, because just the Gaydos artwork on that is just freaking phenomenal. Okay, on to Marvel. What do I have for Marvel here? About the same amount of books. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I believe the same as last year. I will start with Thor. So we had Thor issues 9 through 16, and then an addendum of sorts with King Thor issues 1 through 4. So on Thor, it was Aaron, Del Mundo, Garbett, Fabella, Hepburn, Wilson, and Sabino. And then on King Thor, a lot of people, so bear with me because that last issue was had a bunch of guest artists. So primarily it was done by Aaron Ribic, Zvorcina, Dos Pastores, and Sabino. And then we had for guest artists Walta, O'Halloran, Sorrentino, Stewart, Burnham, Fairbairn, Pitara, Garland, Cooter, Martin, Coipel, Dodderman, Wilson, and Del Mundo. Okay. What can I say now about the Thor stuff that I haven't already said. It is fucking brilliant piece of work. Probably my favorite superhero comic of the last couple years. An amazing end of an amazing run on Thor comics written by Jason Aaron. During the course of this, we got the War of the Realms tie-in issues, and then of course War of the Realms was awesome. I think I have that on my list. I do. Okay, and just some highlights. Odin stops being such a dick. Thor becomes king. I know that's happened before, but it was still really cool. Jane becomes a Valkyrie. Let's see here. King Thor, we get just like any kind of really good Nordic myth, things restart. You get Ragnarok and then things get reborn. Or maybe that's just in the comics. I don't know. But anyway, the God Butcher returns at the end of time, and old King Thor has to fight him. I really dug this. Like I said, it was a nice conclusion. I will admit, though, that while I enjoyed this last part of Aaron and the other creators' story, I mostly enjoyed the Jane Foster as Thor storyline series better. So, Jane could have continued as Thor indefinitely and I would have been happy. All right. Speaking of Jane Foster as Valkyrie, as I just mentioned, that is one of my favorite books coming out towards the end, I believe, of 2019. I think only 4 or 5 issues had come out by then. This is by Ewing, Aaron, Cafu, Abertov, Perez, Torme, Irving, Poggi, and Sabino. So this is kind of like Lady Thor 2.0, only Jane is, like I said, the Valkyrie. Since the Valkyrie that we are used to seeing in Marvel Comics, what was her name? Brunhilde? Something like that. Anyway, that character died, I think, in the War of the Realms, and Jane took on that persona. And she gets a talking winged horse, along with this weapon that can be different things. It could be a sword or a chain or whatever else. Anyway, it's a little different. The Cafu art is really good. I really like that aspect of the book. And so what else is going on in that? So Jane Foster, of course, was a doctor, but because of her superheroing, she's demoted to morgue assistant, and she gets they're developing this supporting set of supporting characters, and the morgue guy is one of those. I can't remember his name now. I kind of think of this is an extension of her journey into mystery, if you will. As a mythological hero. So she was Thor, now she's Valkyrie. I like how Jane herself is constantly surprised by what she sees or says as Valkyrie and what she can do as Valkyrie as well. So it's kind of like the whole Captain Marvel, well, Shazam, the DC one, Captain Marvel. Two personas and sharing the same physical space, so to speak. Anyway, it's kind of like that, but it's kind of neat to explore that dualism in this book. So I like it. War of the Realms, of course. So obviously my Marvel reading is pretty limited, so it's very focused around Thor. But this was a great event. In fact, it's one of my favorite Big Two event books of the last many years. I can't think of how long ago. The last really cool event series that I enjoyed a lot was Blackest Night from DC. So this was Marvel's version for me. So this is by Aaron Dodderman, Wilson, and Sabino, that great team. God, I love those guys together. I also love, just like in Blackest Night, how this event built out of the stuff coming out of the Thor book. It just kind of, to me, it seems organic in the way that it developed into this larger Marvel Universe epic. Also, it's a goddamn beautiful book. Dodderman and Wilson, wonderful team. I can't say enough good things about the stuff that I've read by those two artists. So there you go. It was epic in scope, both narratively and visually, and Thor's life changed dramatically because of it. So this is where I think, so he becomes worthy again. Is that right? Did it happen in War of the Realms, or was it? I think so. I'm getting the different titles confused in my head. And then he also becomes king. So, talk about consequences coming out of an event. He didn't die or anything, but come on. That we can have positive things come out of these events. It doesn't have to all be dramatic and painful, even though there are parts of that there were. Okay. Other areas of the Marvel Universe that I liked, Superior Spider-Man. This is by Gage, Hawthorne, Von Graubiger, Belair, Medina, Smith, Troy, Coles, and Lanham. This is Superior Spider-Man Volume 2. The first volume was one of my very favorite comics of all time, really. I quite enjoyed that, and so when they brought it back, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot, even though it's done by a different creative team than last time. But it's still Otto Octavius. This time he's in a cloned body, slightly different appearance. So he's not Peter Parker. He doesn't look like Peter Parker, but it's a body cloned from, I believe, cloned from Peter Parker. Anyway, still trying to be a hero. While battling his superiority complex and his general demeanor, I guess, which is just delightful. It's a nice comedy of errors, so to speak. Unfortunately, though, at the end they turn him back into Dr. Octopus. I mean, it made sense in the story, I guess, but it's like, come on. I like stories about former villains trying to be heroic, and that comic book was doing a pretty good job of that. Unfortunately, they totally just reversed everything, but oh well. He also had a great supporting cast coming out of the previous version of the previous volume of the Superior Spider-Man, and some other stuff coming out of the Spider-Geddon stories as well. There's a lot of adversaries involved with the Spider-Geddon or Spider-Verse, or I don't know what they're calling it collectively, but that Otto had to deal with. So I had a question about this. So with the supporting cast, is it a comic book trope that heroes are heroes in part because they have friends that support them, while villains do not? We didn't get into that a whole lot, but it seemed to suggest that especially with the female supporting cast members in the book. This only went issues 2 through 12 came out in 2019, but I quite enjoyed it until the very end. And then finally from Marvel, the big one other than Thor, which is, and this is also why I had to wait to do this this discussion, because as a gift, my wife got me a gift certificate to In Stock Trades, and I cashed that in for 4 Immortal Hulk volumes that I had to read. And so I read volumes 2 through 5. This is by Ewing, Bennett, Garcia, Jose, Bravo, Fontiras, Mounts, Rosenberg, O'Halloran, and Pettit. So in late 2018, or I don't know if it was late, but in 2018 when they released the Immortal Hulk, I almost bought the issues because I love Al Ewing's writing. Just about everything, if not everything, that Ewing has written that I've gotten, I've adored. So, but I had a problem with that because I just don't like the Hulk as a character. I enjoyed the TV series from the late 70s, but I just never gotten into the Hulk as a comic book character that I like to read. He's a great supporting character. I've never really, like I said, I've really never really enjoyed him as a lead in a book. All that has changed because of what Ewing, Bennett, Garcia, Jose, and the others are doing. Because wow, what a great interpretation of the character, taking him back to his roots, his early appearances as a Jekyll and Hyde character. The Hulk cannot come out during the daylight. And so that is also used as, sunlight used as a weapon, kind of like the anti-Superman. The psychological probing and delving into Banner's psyche and the multiple personalities and the new thing, which it's new to me anyway. I think it's new to this. The gamma radiation, how it's a scientific phenomenon, but also a magical thing with the green door thing. I so dig this story, this comic book. It's so good. There's also, I mentioned the TV series from the 70s with Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby. There's a nod to that with this new character who has the same last name as the reporter in that TV series. But in the book, it's Jackie McGee. And so we get a lot of how she's pursuing the Hulk because of an experience she had when she was younger that devastated her family. But she finds not everything is as black and white as, thinking about the Hulk as this rampaging monster and that's it, who needs to be put away. There's more to it than that. I just love how this book in generally has expanded the Hulk character beyond, and I know I'm thinking about the Hulk probably too simplistically, but beyond Hulk smash. So, this is a series of stories that has turned me into a Hulk fan. I do want to just specify too, I forgot to do this at the beginning of this. I particularly loved the issues in these volumes, issues 11 through 13, 16 through 20, and issue 25. So those were just fantastic, especially the second set. Yeah, the second set was just, I think it epitomizes what comic books do really well, which is the juxtaposition of the art and the words telling a story in a way that only comic books can. So these creators are definitely hitting it out of the park and firing in all cylinders and all those trite things you say about stuff you love. So anyway, good stuff. Check it out. All right, on to Image. First up, this is no surprise to anybody who has listened to the show, but Brubaker and Phillips we're back with Criminal, an ongoing series, and at the time at the end of 2019, the first 11 that we found out later of 12. I have issue 12 in my hot little hand, so to speak. It's on my desk to read, but anyway, the series is going to end at issue 12. But the first 11 issues came out in 2019. One of my favorites. I always buy this team's books. So when they first introduced this, I thought it was going to be like these short, either one-off or really short, 2 or 3 issue stories. That's kind of the gist of what I got from Brubaker when he was touting this book. But we only got 2 major stories after the first issue. I'm not complaining about it. It was just a weird change in direction, I guess, because we got that first issue, reintroducing the idea. We got, I think it was Teague Lawless in that first issue, a character that we have seen in other past Criminal works that Brubaker and Phillips have done. And then we had the really cool Comic-Con comic book history story called Bad Weekend. I think that was 2 or 3 issues, I think. And then Cruel Summer which was a multiple issue arc. That still great. I still really like it, but yeah. And issue 12 wraps that up, and I will read that probably after I stop recording this episode. Another favorite book that I got this is Fair Lady by Schirmer, Balboni, Louise, and Bowman. I got it because of the premise. And it's a derivative premise, but a lot of comic books are. But what counts is you take that I don't want to keep saying derivative. You take that familiar idea and you put your own twist on it. Here's this new way of looking at this concept, and so this is basically Magnum PI. With a female character as the Magnum character, crossed or put into a fantasy setting. On top of that, each issue was its own standalone mystery. So only 5 issues of this came out, and I'll get to that in a second. But every issue was its own mystery. So much like an episode of Magnum PI or any kind of detective story, it was on TV. It was, here's the mystery. Here's how the hero of the story solves it, and you get the resolution. On to the next thing. And over the course of 5 issues, the backstory of the character starts to develop more. We get to learn more about her friends, the setting, the war that she previously was involved in. Just like it's exactly like Magnum PI, only, like I said, in a fantasy setting with a female character instead. Interesting visuals as well. Lots of splash pages or 2-page spreads, which I did complain about in the 2nd or 3rd issue, and then one of my friends kind of jumped on me about it, but that's okay. It was a minor quibble, but I really came to love this series, and I was really upset that they had to cancel it due to low sales. So I'm looking at you guys out there who did not order this book and allowed me to get more issues. So shame on you. All right. Anyway, I hope that returns. It was a very good book. Also, as no surprise, I'm sure for those that have been listening, Lazarus returned in its new quarterly format. This is Lazarus Risen. The first 3 issues of it came out last year. The 4th, have I gotten the 4th? Or is it not out yet? Anyway, this is by Rucka, Lark, Arcus, and Boland. Still, after all these years, I don't remember when that book first debuted, but it has consistently been on this list ever since it debuted. Despite what my friend Travis, Mr. Oddfellow's Thoughts, says or did say on Twitter, I think, or maybe we were talking during one of our gaming sessions. I don't think that this book has missed a beat. Not only do we get more pages out of it in the quarterly format, we also get all this extra stuff, which, by the way, I don't read a lot of that stuff. I kind of skim through it, but I don't actually partake or take it in, which means I'm not getting my value out of it, but whatever. The main comic book story is what I'm here for. Anyway, like I said, continues to be one of my very favorite comics. And I like I was saying, it's just as good as the monthly books were, and like I said, we get more out of it. So good stuff. All right, moving on into the other publishers area. First, I'm going to talk about one book from Boom/Archaea. This is the Waves graphic novel. This is by Ingrid Chabert, Carol Morrill, Darren Bennett, and the translator is Edwin Gauvin. But this is a French book, comic book that was translated to English, and boy, am I thankful that Boom/Archaea published this for us, because oh boy, one of my very favorite standalone books from last year. Basically, the short of the short version of the story is this couple suffers a major loss and they work their way through it together. I don't want to say what the details are, because go buy this book. And boy, if you do and you read it, I would love to hear from you, because, oh boy, it's so emotional. The contrast, there were some different styles being employed artistically. The art goes black and white with stark shadows when the event occurs in the book, and then there's some softer stuff. It's kind of like, well, it's been a while since I looked at it, but almost watercolor-esque, I want to say. There's some dream sequences in there. Oh, it's so emotional, so inspiring as well. I'm comfortable enough to say to you, my listeners, that it made me cry. It's the only. I got emotional when Alfred died, but that was more out of anger. But this one, literally, I had tears. It's such a good book. Don't miss out on this. Do yourself a favor and go get a copy of Waves and read it. All right. Another fantastically drawn, visually stunning, beautiful looking comic book from last year was from Dark Horse. This is the Colleen Doran adaptation of a Neil Gaiman story, Snow Glass Apples. This is a beautiful hardcover that Dark Horse put out. If you're not familiar with a Neil Gaiman story, which I read years and years ago, it's basically a reimagining, a retelling of the Snow White story from the Wicked Queen's perspective, only with vampires or a vampire. Forget that. I mean, that's an interesting story in itself because it's Neil Gaiman, of course, but it is Colleen Doran's probably the best thing I've ever seen her do. Like I said, it's beautiful. It's intricate. The clothing, for example, it looks embroidered on the page. It's that detailed. The colors are luminous. I have so many good things I want to say about this, but it just comes down to it's a phenomenal piece of work. The villain of the story, the way that Doran portrays the villain, she's ethereal and achingly beautiful, which is how a character like this should be portrayed. It's just freaking wonderful. So go read that too. Not as luminous, but still enjoyable. And especially if you're a fan of the James Bond series of movies, there was from Dynamite, there was James Bond 007, which was a 12-issue series. Issues 3 through 12 came out in 2019. This is by Pack, Laming, Roche, Mayer, Mooney, Farrell, Gapster, and Carey. I got this because I saw an interview with Greg Pak, and it got me interested. Plus, it doesn't take much to sell me on a James Bond adventure. I've read previous incarnation which was done by Warren Ellis, I think. I can't remember the artist. It was called Varger. I read that digitally. That was quite good. And so anyway, when I saw Pak was doing this, how enthusiastic he was about what he was going to do with this, I picked it up. At first, I was a little disappointed because it was just like a retelling of the Goldfinger movie, but it was taking quite the liberties with the story and the characters, and that's what turned it into something that I felt was surprisingly good. Especially the kind of like the rebooting of the Oddjob character. I enjoyed Oddjob more in the story than I did James Bond. Bond in this is almost comes across as he's basically lucky as hell, and which, although when I think about it, with the Sean Connery Bond, that pretty much tracks. because the guy should be dead, but except for a few lucky breaks, and there's no difference in this story either. But Oddjob and his sister we get introduced to. I don't think that character existed in the movie, but I would read a spin-off series of just those two. I really like that. It was quite fun. So check out the collected edition when you get a chance. No surprise to this, Terry Moore has consistently been on this list with Rachel Rising and Strangers in Paradise. Terry Moore has this 5 years. 5 years is a continuation of that story, building up. So it's kind of like the convergence of everything: Strangers in Paradise, Echo, Rachel Rising, Motor Girl. And it all comes to a head in this miniseries, which turns out now is, and I don't know if it was planned as this, but I didn't see a issue X of 10 as I do now in the solicitations. Anyway, the first 6 issues of 5 years by Terry Moore came out last year. Like I said, it ties everything together with all the various series. There's, I think it's been a little too much focused on, a little criticism here, a little too much focused on Kachu and her past and how that all ties into everything at the expense of Francine and their relationship. But it makes sense within the context of what the story Terry Moore is trying to tell. So it's very Strangers in Paradise centric with these other characters coming in and out. But beautiful work, as always, by Mr. Terry Moore. I will read everything by him. I'm looking forward to what he's going to come up with next. Okay, well, those were my favorites from the various publishers. Yeah, so as always, I talk about some things that were disappointing, besides the stuff I've already kind of covered, and what I'm looking forward to in 2020. So first up is most disappointing. There's not that much here, thankfully. There was a few books that I missed because they went away. Much like some of these 12-issue unknown at the time maxi series that I mentioned before. But 2 of those books are The Damned by Cullen Bunn, Brian Hurd, and Bill Crabtree, and then Shadow Roads, which was a sequel to The Sixth Gun by Cullen Bunn, Brian Hurd, A.C. Zamudio, and Carlos Nicolas Zamudio. Both great. Really interesting stories, especially The Damned. I was really into that more than Shadow Roads. It was nice to revisit the Six Gun universe in the different ways that they were, but The Damned is the one I missed the most. And as I understand it, it was just low sales. Not enough of us were buying these books, and so they had to move on and do other things, which is really unfortunate. But there's so many comics, only so much money. I get it. I'm in the same boat. I have a budget, and even though sometimes I go over it, I try to stick with it. And there's just so many that I have to pass on, which is partly why I read a lot more trades these days, because more affordable package. But there's that discussion, that dichotomy of, well, but if you don't support the singles, then they can't continue, and maybe you don't get a trade. And that's been the case. Especially for the smaller publishers, which is why I pre-order the single issues on those instead of waiting as much as I can. Whereas with DC and Marvel, obviously, they can afford it. So, for the most part. So, another book, similar thing, only this was extreme. It only got 1 issue out of 4. And this was Maryland Manor by Magdalene Visaggio, Marley Zarconi, and Irma Navilla. That was, I thought it was a very inventive idea. I was very well drawn by Marley of Shade the Changing Girl. That's where I think I first encountered Marley Zarconi's work. Yeah, it's too bad. It was set in the 80s. It was the main character was the first daughter of a president, not Reagan, as far as I understand it. But one of her friends is possessed or haunted or both by the ghost of Abe Lincoln, and there's all sorts of weird things going on. Anyway, political, fantastical story that we will never, maybe not never, but we didn't get the resolution to. So very unfortunate. I really wish we could have gotten more out of that. But that's it. So I guess generally speaking, like I said, most disappointing in 2019 is the lack of sales for certain books that I liked. So make sure you check my pull list at longboxreview.com/pull list and support the books that I have pre-ordered. So if you don't mind, please. Thank you. What I'm looking forward to, we'll end the episode with that. And always end on a positive note if you can. What I'm looking forward to is the new reading more of the new Legion of Superheroes books. As I record this, I just got issue number 3 that I still have to read. I just pre-ordered because I did my pre-order for the month of February. Why did I set myself up to say that again? I just pre-ordered issue number 6, so we'll see where that's going. As Peter Rios and I talked about on the Legion Project podcast, it was a special Tales episode covering that first issue. We have some issues with this new Legion book, but it's Legion. It's new Legion, so I have to support it as much as I can. And so far, it's not sucking. Great art, but not sure what the story is. The jury is out on the story, I guess, right now, as of right now. Also looking forward to some of the. So this stuff came out in 2019, some of it at least, but I haven't read it yet. It's the new X-Men stuff that has been overseen and written in part by Jonathan Hickman. I'm a little mad. I guess I could have put this in the most disappointing category, but I'm a little mad that Marvel has decided to. So they've released the hardcover trade of House of X Powers of 10, but I was waiting for the trade paperback versions, and that hasn't arrived yet. However, the ongoing series that came out of House of X and Powers of 10, those are in trade. So I have already ordered the X-Men book written by Hickman, and also just today pre-ordered the New Mutants trade. So I will get those, I'm guessing, before I get the trades of House of X, Powers of 10. Hoxpox. I should just go with that. And I can't read those other trades until I get the Hoxpox collections. Come on, Marvel. Also, next to last thing, the penultimate item that I will list here is I have no news. As far as I know, there's been no news, but I am hopeful that Saga will return in 2020 after about a year and a half absence. Now, they were only supposed to be gone for a year, and it's been 50% longer than that. So I'm starting to lose hope in this, but I'm hoping against hope, I guess, is the case. So hopefully Saga will return. And then finally, 2020 is the Long Box Review podcast 10th anniversary year. So this summer will be that anniversary, and so 10 years of the podcast. First of all, thank you, loyal listeners and new listeners who will be loyal listeners, I hope. Thank you for supporting the show. Thanks to everyone who's left reviews, who has commented at the blog, longboxreview.com, who has talked with me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all the various other places. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys listening to the podcast, and I hope that you're getting as much out of it as I do in producing it. So I continue to love doing this, even though I haven't had much time recently. If you go listen to a couple recent The Gutters episodes, you'll know why. Anyway, I have some things. I'm starting to formulate some plans for the 10th anniversary. Hopefully that will be fun too. So, yeah, there you go. So that was my favorite stuff of 2019. I hope you enjoyed this episode, as I said before. If you would like to, if you enjoyed this show, this episode, please leave me a review, as I was kind of hinting at before. So I have a new thing for you to do that at. I mean, you can always go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show, rate 5 stars and leave me a positive review if you like it. If you don't, maybe not do that. But anyway, I have another means that's easy to do. You could do it on your smartphone, on your tablet, at your computer. So that's kind of nice. If you just go to ratethispodcast.com/LBR, which stands for Long Box Review. So ratethispodcast.com/LBR. Click that link. It'll be in the show notes for this episode as well, but you can go there and you can subscribe, rate, and review, or no, I guess just leave a review. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's new. It's a new thing. So I'm trying this out. Leave a review, and you can do it through whatever service you are using to listen to the podcast. So whether it's like I use Pocket Casts, people use the podcast app on their iPhone, Google Podcasts, whatever. You can use that link to get you to that particular player's review area, and then you leave a nice review for Long Box Review. I would greatly appreciate that. So I'll leave you with this. Let me know what your favorites of last year were. You can leave comments at the blog, longboxreview.com. Reach out to me on Twitter at longboxreview, and I also have a Facebook page as well. So with that, I will leave you, and thanks for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.